What's happening, people? Today's lesson is percentage increase and decrease. So I'll be teaching you how to increase a value by a given percentage and how to decrease a value. Now, there's obviously the long method, and then there's my efficient 5-second method, as I like to call them. So let's get straight into it. Question says increase 430 by 20%. So here's what some people do. They try and find 20%. So 20% of 430. So if you remember the video I did last time on percentage of amounts, we're going to do 0.2 multiplied by 430, which gives us 86. And then because it says increase, you do 430, which is the original amount, and you add the 86 on top, which gives us an answer of 560. Now this works. However, for me, as you know, too much work. I can do that in one step, which I'll get to in a moment. And you can do the same thing with decrease. So you can find 30%, which is basically 0.30. So 0.30 multiplied by 725 gives us 217.5. Because it's decrease, we're going to do 725 minus that 217.5, which is going to give us 507.5, which is the correct answer, but I can do this in one line, and I want you guys to be able to work this out in one step. So let's see how to actually do that. Now, before we actually get onto the calculation, what I want to teach you first is multipliers. Now, if you've seen my video on finding the percentage of amount, you'll know that a multiplier is the number we multiply by to work out the percentage. So let's say, for example, you've got 87%, right? Now, 87%, percent means out of 100, is the same as saying 87 out of 100, which simplifies to, as a decimal, 0.87. That's fine. We can do that if it's just a percentage of an amount, right? An increase, however, is slightly different. Now, if you think about absolutely every original value starts off as 100%, right? We all know that. If I'm increasing something by, let's say, 15%, I'm essentially adding 15% of the value on top, right? So my amount is no longer 100%. It then becomes 115%. Now, if I apply the same logic as above to this, that's the same as saying 115 out of 100, which, if you work that out, gives you 1.15, which is absolutely fine. Now, if we put this into perspective, right, when we find a percentage of an amount, so for example, 87%, we should understand that 87% is below 100%. So when we have 0.87, that makes our value smaller, which makes sense because you're finding a percentage of something. When you're increasing by a percent, the clue's in the name, you're increasing it, which means your value is going to get larger. What are the parameters for that? When you multiply something by a number bigger than 1, the number's going to get larger. Makes perfect sense, right? So if a 15% increase is 115%, the multiplier is 1.15. And because it's above 1, the number's going to get larger. So this is the number we're going to use to multiply our original by, and automatically it will increase it by 15%. If I wanted to decrease, or I'll just split the page here. So again, my original amount, always 100%. Let's say there was a sale and it was, I don't know, 30% off. I'm going to take away 30%. It means the item that I'm buying is no longer 100%. It now becomes 70% because I've knocked off 30%. And then again, same concept. 70 out of 100, because that's our new percentage, gives me 0.7 or 0.70. And think about it. If I multiply a number by 0.7, the number's going to get smaller. Yeah, so that is a decrease, which is exactly what I want. Before we get on to actual questions, I want us to get really good at finding multipliers, because that's the make or break in these sorts of questions. So if you want to pause the video and have a go at filling this table in, of course, go for it. It's great practice, but I will be going through it now. So for the first one, 15% increase. As I showed you on the last slide, 100 plus 15 would be 115. Divide that by 100 gives us 1.15. And that would be your multiplier. That's the number you use to multiply your value by to get your answer. If it's a 28% decrease, so we're going to be subtracting now. So 100 minus 28 is going to give us 72. That's my new percentage. And then as a multiplier, so divided by 100, 0.72. That's going to give me a 28% decrease straight away in one calculation. A 40.5% increase. Add that to 100, I get 140.5. Once I've got that number, I simply divide by 100, which will be 1.405. Again, 12.8% decrease. So always start with 100, take away the percent it's given you, so 12.8, leaves me with 87.2%. That is not my multiplier. That's just a percentage. So divide that by 100, which will be 0.872. That's my multiplier. Another one. Add this value to 100. Now, when it's already a decimal, it can be a little bit tricky, but if you follow the process, you'll be absolutely fine. So it's always 100 plus or minus the value, depending on the word given. So this is an increase, so I'm going to add 0.05 on. I get 100.05. And then what's the second step? Divide by 100. So I end up with 1.0005. Works every time. 0.01% decrease. So 100 minus 0.01, which leaves me with 99.99. Divide by 100, which will be 0.9999. And there you go. I've got my multiplier. Now, for the next three values, I've given you the multiplier. I want you to tell me what the percentage change is. Now, obviously, if it's 0 point something, we can immediately say it's a decrease. That's fairly self-explanatory. If it's above 1, it's going to be an increase. So already we've established the first one is a decrease. But by how much? Now, if you think about 0.97, that is 97%. How much below 100% is that? Well, it's 3. Because 100 minus 3 will give us a 97. So this is a 3% decrease. Okay, 1.003. So if you think about this, 1 would stand for 100 and it's gone up by 0.003. If I do the reverse of what we did before, so what was the last step in these first 6 questions? The last step was to divide by 100. So let's reverse that. Let's multiply by 100. So 1.003 times 100 is going to give me 100.3. Which means this was a 0.3% increase. Similarly, with the last one, let's do the reverse. So we would have usually divided by 100. Let's now multiply by 100. So 0.8009 multiplied by 100 gives me 80.09. And you basically want to think, how much below 100 is that? Well, simply do 100 minus 80.09 and see what you get left with. And it leaves me with 19.91, which is my decrease. 19.91% decrease. Okay, now that that's out the way, and hopefully a bit more comfortable with that, let's put this into practice. Question says, the salary of an employee increased by 23%. Wow, unheard of, but yeah. The salary of an employee increased by 23% after a performance review. If the employee's original salary was 2,400, what is the new salary after the increase? So, a few key things here. It's 23% increase. That should be the first thing that sticks out to you. And then you've got the original. So that's your starting point. So if it's a 23% increase, now the more you do this, you'll be able to get the multiplier straight away. But just for the purpose of explaining, we start with 100. And because it's an increase, we're adding 23, which gives us 123%. Divide by 100 to get our multiplier. So it's 1.23. Now you've done the hard work. The next bit is the calculation. So my multiplier multiplied by my original amount, so 2,400. And you should be thinking in your head, right, it's an increase, so my answer should be greater. So if you get an answer that's less than the original, maybe something's gone wrong there. So multiply those, and you end up with 2,952. Nice pay rise for him or her. Let's look at a decrease question. So a car's value decreased by 18% in the first year. If the car was worth £15,000 at the beginning of the year, what is its value after the decrease? So again, keywords, we've got a decrease, it's 18%, and the car was worth this much at the beginning. There's your clue. Look for these words that refer to the original or the start. So again, 18%, so 100 minus 18. Now, there will come a time where you won't even need to write this step. So 100 minus 18 gives us 82. So that's the new percent of the car. So divide that by 100 gives us 0.82. Multiply that by what the value was at the start, which is 15,000. Press equals. And there you go. Bob's your uncle, as they say. So 12,300. And there you go. You've worked it out in one line. Your turn. Pause the video. Have a go at these 5 questions, and then I'll put the answers up when you're done. Okay, how did we get on? Now, if you notice, each of these we are able to do in one calculation. And it's crazy how the marks work, because you will be given a mark for the multiplier. So for example, the 0.86 scores you a mark. Doing the calculation, so 180 times 0.86, and then your answer. It's insane. For that small amount of working out, you get a decent number of marks. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next lesson.